He mentioned more than once over the time, like, oh, I can't wait for the two of us to live by ourselves. And that would have given us the opportunity, Richie and me, to finally have our own private life without anybody around, because Melody was in Germany, my sons were abroad. So basically it would have been him and me in this place. But, huge but, he had started to drink again heavily. I dreaded to come home. I stayed at my restaurant as long as possible until I got so tired that I said, oh, I have to go home now, even to lie down. He would come home actually and start to rant and rave and shout at the dogs and go on really, really bad, and in the process insulting me constantly. Absolutely. I was mentally exhausted, I was emotionally exhausted, I was physically exhausted, and I still took it. I don't know, I felt responsible for him. We were here in the afternoon, early afternoon, and he was completely drunk again, and he came home and he started to attack me again verbally, and something suddenly snapped in me. Really, like I could practically feel it, you know? And I started to shout at him and I said, get the fuck out of my house. Get the hell out of my life.
Dreaming what just happened. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas.
Hey my lovelies, it's your girl Mel. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to Vlogmas as well. And already know say we're here with mommy, so it's another story time with mommy. Story time with mommy. So the last time we left off in the year 2019, and we're just going to continue the story time and tell you what happened next.
Okay, hi Mills lovelies. Yeah, we are basically, let's say a tiny bit in the year 2019, still not long. Basically what happened there as well is that Mayumi, after living with me for all these years since she came back from England, and in end of April that year Kale was born, but she was still living in this house with me at that time. And basically after a few months she started to stay at her fiance's place more and more often, and I suggested, why aren't you just going to move up there completely, because I mean you're a young family, you have a child together, you should have a life together. And at that point in time, of course, Richie was still here, so it was him and me living here. And basically it always had been a big dream of Richie's actually to even live with me alone. Because to be fair, from we met, I came with a package. I came with at least one child, with not two children around me all the while, although they were not really children at the time anymore. But my family was always more than me. And he joined in, and he joined the family. And sometimes, I mean, with all the things that happened and so, he got along more or less well with them, but then again not so well. And it was like an up and down situation a bit. And he mentioned more than once over the time, like, oh, I can't wait for the two of us to live by ourselves. So I said, all right. Seeing that Mayumi, and she followed my advice and decided to move to her fiance's place, and that would have given us the opportunity, Richie and me, to finally have our own private life without anybody around, because Melody was in Germany, my sons were abroad. So basically it would have been him and me in this place. But, huge but, he had started to drink again heavily by even mid of 2019. He was on it on a daily basis. He would come home actually and start to rant and rave and shout at the dogs and go on really bad, and in the process insulting me constantly. I mean, he would tell me some things. I really felt hurt without a reason. I mean, we had nothing really going on. I wasn't stopping him. Because I was tired of interfering.
You were exhausted.
I was exhausted. I was actually really exhausted. I dreaded to come home. I stayed at my restaurant as long as possible until I got so tired that I said, oh, I have to go home now, even to lie down. And I came home, and I was happy when he was, because I used to come home in the afternoon, stone stiff drunk, lie down in the bed and sleep. So if I came home and I saw him sleeping, I said, oh God, thank God. You know, and I would make myself a little dinner and retired after, and that evening was finished and done for me in peace. But if he was awake, or if I came home before he would come home, there would be always some altercations. And it was really, yeah, like you say, I was exhausted. Absolutely. I was mentally exhausted. I was emotionally exhausted. I was physically exhausted. And I still took it. I don't know. I felt responsible for him. I still felt love for him. So I didn't do anything. I tried to, every morning, basically when he was sober, I tried to talk to him and talk some sense into him and try to show him how bad I was feeling and how desperate I was feeling about the situation. And I begged him, I said, look, why is it that you are so unhappy that you have to get drunk every day? Because look, be grateful for what we have. We might not have much money, but we have a roof over our heads, we have good food on the table, we can drive up and down, we have the beauty of Jamaica, we are both healthy. We have a lot of things to be grateful for. So what is it that makes you drink so much? Anyway, I never got an answer, nothing ever changed. Until now we reach 2020. In February 2020, and actually it's interesting that certain things always seem to happen in February. And February is actually Richie's birth month as well. It became so bad with his drinking that I remember that one day, specific day, we were here in the afternoon, early afternoon, and he was completely drunk again, and he came home and he started to attack me again verbally, and something suddenly snapped in me. Really, like I could practically feel it, you know? And I started to shout at him and I said, get the fuck out of my house. Get the hell out of my life. If I saw you think, if that is what you feel, get out. No. I didn't even give him until next day or next week or nothing. I say, get out. No. And you know how drunk people are, they are boasting. Of course, no problem. I have enough people I can go to. I have enough possibilities and stuff. And I said, okay, fine. Pack your things and go. I have to talk about a little different situation first. I came back from the Christmas market in Germany in beginning of January, and when I came back, I realized he introduced this older lady to me that was apparently his cousin, and she was from Canada, a Jamaican woman, but she lived in Canada, and he was up and down with her all over the place, and I have to help my cousin, I have to help out my cousin. I said, alright, fine. Didn't say anything. But it seemed kind of weird to me, especially as this woman, when we got introduced and he introduced me as his wife, she looked at me in a certain way, and I said, wait, what are you looking like at me like that? You know, that's weird. You know, so I kind of got a little bit suspicious there right away and said, I wonder who this woman is to him really. I mean, I can't say anything. He never stayed away a night or anything. He was never doing anything out of the ordinary. He only spent quite a bit of time with her. And his reasoning always was, I have to help her. And I know he's helpful, and I know he did it with other people as well. So for me it was just a little bit suspicious at the time. So when I set him out that day, I mean, he packed some things in a suitcase and a bag and moved away that day and said, I'm coming for the rest another day. I said, fine, as long as you are out now, fine. And it was really a relief, to tell you the truth. I was so relieved, because the atmosphere that he created with his constant aggressiveness, with his constant dissatisfaction of his life, our life, the whole vibe that you would have around. I mean, I told already in another story time, I think he would shout at the dogs constantly, you know, and until I felt sorry for the dogs. Stuff like that, and I couldn't take it any longer. So I was pretty much relieved that he was out, and a few days later he came and picked up the rest of his stuff. And he found a place somewhere with some friends, apparently, he told me. So all that was fine. And of course, for me, though, it was weird, because I was suddenly all by myself in this house. And to be very honest, it has basically never in my life happened that I was all by myself. Because one of my children, life circumstances always was around at all time. Or I had a partner, or I was living with other people generally when I was young. So I was basically never really alone, and it felt really sad for me, because first of all, it was as a white woman to live alone in a house, and people will know quite fast that I would have been alone. Luckily I had my dog, so I brought in my big dog every night and as my security. But it kind of felt a little bit insecure for me. Plus, I mean, I was just simply lonely. Basically, I mean, in the day I saw enough people, of course, through the business, and Mayumi would be there with the children still, or with a child at the time. And it's not like I was lonely in the sense that I wouldn't have anybody around me the whole day, but it was still very, very unusual. So at one point in time, I called Melody in Germany. It was like within February, a few days after I was here alone. I called Melody and I told her the story, and I told her what was going on and how I was feeling and stuff, and I said, boy, I wish you could come even for a little while. And then she kinda, did you say yes right away? No, you called back at, what was it again?
I don't even remember.
But I think I planted a seed there, because a little bit after we talked again, and she said, you know, I actually have some time at my hands here right now, and I could come like for 3 weeks maybe. And that would have been in the beginning of March 2020. And as it went, she actually got you got a very cheap flight, yeah? Because it was like a last minute thing that she booked, and she got a very cheap flight. And she was supposed to come on the 4th of March. And I was happy, of course. Yeah, my daughter will come.
Before we get into that, I do have to mention that, remember in 2019 I basically graduated from university with my bachelor's degree, and then I had planned to do a master's degree right after, and I applied to this new program that they just introduced to the school, I think that year or maybe one semester prior to that. So it was brand new, but it was called biomedicine. And me being like, I didn't want to go back to the one that I've been in with the bachelor's degree. If you've watched the last story time, you know what I'm talking about. I did not want to see that professor lady again. So the biomedicine was really interesting to me because it went even more into the medical field. So I was like, wow, that sounds really nice. And I did apply for it, and they had like only, I think, 20 spots available for the master course. So they didn't have many spots available at all, but I said I'm still going to try and apply because this sounds like something I would really enjoy. It didn't have anything to do with programming anymore. It was just biology and medical stuff and lab stuff and stuff like that. So that was really my forte and what I realized that I liked based on my bachelor. So I applied to it, and because of course it was a new course, everybody and their mother were going there too. Like literally everybody I spoke to, they said, oh, they're going to try and apply for that. So I'm like, shit, and they only have 20 spots. So anyways, I applied, and they didn't take long to give us the approval or not, the acceptance or not, and I was not accepted when I went and spoke to the professor that is managing that whole program. He said I was basically one person out of, like, I would have been the 21st person, because they gave us the option, because to apply for the master we had to go through a whole lot of stuff. We had to answer some questions that they've given us and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't just a simple application of, oh, this is my information and I'm applying to this course. No, you had to like answer questions and why you want to do it and this and that and blah 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 and stuff like that. And of course your grades were very important in the overall score, because they had some form of score system that they set up. So based on everything calculated together, that is what they would use to see if they could accept you or not. And when I went and spoke to him, he was like, if like one of the other person would have jumped off or something or said that they don't want it or anything, you would have been the next person in line to get into that course. So that was like super discouraging for me, of course, because as I said, my whole life before anything I applied to and put my head towards saying that is what I want to do, I always got it. I always was accepted and stuff like that. So for me, that was like the first blow of not getting into something that your heart was really that I applied for, basically, because everything I mean like literally anything before that I applied for, I got into without any form of problems. So then I decided, of course, all right, I can reapply the next year. What I could do, which I also mentioned in the last story time, is I could basically pre-study the master courses, the master modules, and then basically once I get accepted for the official thing, I can just get them recognized. So that is what I was planning to do. So I just routing myself for something else at first that didn't have a very hard acceptance, what do you call it, acceptance rate. So that was like an easy course to get into, an easy program to get into. So I wrote in myself for that and decided that, hey, I would basically pre-study the modules and stuff of the biomedicine, and then the following year I would basically reapply and, you know, get be on the right track basically. So then it boils down to I'm now written into a master program, and then yeah, around March, I think that is always around like close to the exam time, but I didn't really have much to do in that time. I don't remember why, but I didn't really have much. Oh yeah, I did have. It was time for me to study. So I had like time to study for the exams. So in those 3 weeks that I actually planned to come down for, I was supposed to be down here in Jamaica studying, and once I got back, like literally 2 days after I got back, I would have had my first exam.
Okay.
So that is how I ended up saying I would have had the time to come down, because otherwise from that I wouldn't have had the time. But anyways, we booked the ticket. I got stuff that was needed. You know, I went shopping for mommy and my Yumi and the baby at the time. Got them some stuff, so I made sure I brought down some stuff for them. And yeah, I landed in Jamaica
on the 4th of March,
on the 4th of March
2020. And of course mommy was happy to have a baby back. You know, and because
was that the time when we surprised my Yumi?
Yeah, I think so.
We didn't tell my Yumi that I was coming. So mommy told my Yumi.
I think I told her I had to go to Kingston.
No, you told her that you're picking up somebody else that is going to stay at the house.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, some guests.
Yeah.
Because at that time, because what happened when my Yumi moved out, I had her room available. And I basically put it up for like, not Airbnb officially, but for people to rent. And I had some people who were asking to rent a room, but they decided differently. But I used those people now for my Yumi to say, oh, they decided to come after all, so I'm going to pick them up. Yes, that was it. And
then when I landed and got to the airport, you know, my Yumi was sitting somewhere with Kale. He was like he was so tiny in that time.
He was like what?
He was still very...
He was 10 months old already.
Yeah, but he didn't...
No, he
was
walk
as advanced as Kiki, for example.
Yeah.
Kiki basically started walking in that time already. But he was still so you know, fragile and tiny. And that was the first time I was meeting him.
Yeah.
But anyways, he was...
because you hadn't been in Jamaica for quite a while before that even, right? I think at least 2 years or longer.
No. I was
sure?
Yeah, that was the only year I think that I wasn't there. Because I was there when my Yumi was pregnant, remember?
Oh yeah, okay.
I was there for a time when my Yumi was pregnant, but I didn't meet him when he was born. So, yeah, my Yumi was sitting with the baby because she couldn't stand up, and then I basically snuck up behind her, and I don't even remember what I said to her, if it was just dirty girl or something, or in that time we tease each other with the bitch word sometimes. So I don't know, something like that I said, and then she'd look around and was completely shocked, and she's like, what? What are you doing here? So she got a very, very good surprise. Yeah. And we basically just headed home, and I set up my 3-week shop in the room that my Yumi
here where she is now.
Yes, in the same room that my Yumi used to stay in. So that's how I ended up in Jamaica.
Right. So like I said, I was of course happy to have my baby with me, and then she kind of got integrated a bit in our daily life, like coming down to the restaurant with me in the day, and even starting to help out a bit if necessary. And everything was nice, and when On the, I will never forget that date neither, on the 11th of March 2020, and remember by 2000, end of 2019 going up, the COVID started worldwide. And there were messages all over the place, and oh, and it's so dangerous, and oh my god, and people are dying like flies, and everybody was hysterical and panicky and stuff, and we were here up to that time, and nobody heard. We heard about COVID, but we didn't get affected at all.
Yeah.
We were sitting here and kind of feeling safe, and so, oh, well, Jamaica is an island, we might not even get it here, and hopefully, and so on. And when on the 11th of March that year, 2020, we got in the radio, in the TV, everywhere, it was big, big, big. We have our first COVID case in Jamaica. Actually, it was a lady that did come from England and got sick right away after she landed, and apparently they had some tests here already, and they found out she had COVID. And she was isolated right away. But of course, she had been on the airplane, and then at that point in time, nobody was wearing masks.
Well, not even just the airplane. She was in close contact.
Yeah, I think
with
they
her
had even a
members.
funeral or something that she attended here, a wedding or a funeral or some form of family gathering, and she was there unprotected. Of course, and because nobody at that point in time knew anything about mask or 8 feet or 6 feet apart or something like that. I mean, that was completely unknown at that point in time. So we got our first case, and literally the next day, from the next day, my business was practically non-existent anymore, because what happened, the Jamaicans got so panicky at first, they didn't even want to go out on the street anymore. I mean, basically you would go in the town on the 12th of March, from the 12th of March, and you would barely see people in the town. You would, I mean, it was like suddenly the whole island became something like a ghost, or at least what I could see in Port Antonio. I can't say the whole island, but what I saw in Port Antonio is like something, it come like life just suddenly stopped, so boom. It was like people were afraid to go out on the road. They were afraid to go shopping. They were afraid to do anything. And of course, me having a place that relied on people to come to eat or buy food, we felt it right away as well. So you could say that basically from the 12th of March, my business sales dropped to a quarter of what we used to have. So at that point in time, okay, it was like, yeah, okay, fine, COVID, and it dropped, and well, it will take a little while, but then everything should be back to normal and so on. But I mean, little did we know that this whole thing would
last 2 years.
2 years, exactly, and even getting a lot worse, because what happened on a little after the 11th, basically Jamaica reacted very, very fast. I think it was around the 15th of March that Jamaica decided to lock the island. No more flights in, no more flights out. I mean, they had a few little flights going out where practically all they told, all the hotels, everybody is, guys, if you want to leave the island, you better get out now.
They had like these emergency flights.
And they put up some emergency flights because of course there were way more people than the flights could carry, so they put up some emergency flights, and it was pretty much chaotic, and it's like, so it was like not even a week after we had our first case, the island locked down completely.
And I was supposed to leave, I think, the 22nd or the 23rd or something like that. Somewhere around there, so I was supposed to leave. And yeah, basically they had like some last minute, I don't even know exactly how it was supposed to work, but these were like some form of emergency flights, And
But I think you had to even pay extra if you wanted to get out. On one of those, you had your ticket, but you had to pay extra.
yeah, some I don't know.
It
don't know if they
wasn't that
charge you.
easy.
I don't know if they charge you same time or they charge you once you got up there. Something, but I heard after a while that like they charge a hefty fee for those emergency flights. So of course, you know, I didn't end up reaching on one of those flights. So your girl got stuck in Jamaica. And I mean, with the whole,
I like it.
Mommy was happy.
I was happy. I said yes.
Mommy was happy. I was like, shit, I have my exams and stuff, but Germany picked up on those kind of stuff very fast as well.
Yeah,
And
it was getting pretty much catastrophic over there as well.
They turned into online classes pretty quickly, and I think that there weren't any exams after all, because they didn't figure it out as yet. So I think they were trying to push the exam dates further down until they figured out a way. So I just didn't. I don't know if I may choose to not do your exam them or if it really did get pushed back or what. I think remember
it was
fully.
pushed back because they had to figure out how to do it, because Germany was locking down pretty fast as well.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what, but your girl didn't end up having any exams, and based on that and the online classes and the time difference, because we have a 6 to 7 hour time difference with Germany depending on the season, and
it was till March would be 7 hours.
yeah, 7 hours time difference. So when they would have their classes, it would be like 2-3 a.m. for me, and
No, so
that just doesn't make sense. I wouldn't have had a life anymore, because I would be up in the night and would have to sleep in the daytime. So I just said, alright, let me just make this semester pass. Since I'm trying to pre-study for what I really want to study anyways, it didn't really matter because I could basically do it once I'm officially written in, right? So for me, it wasn't that tragic. It was like, oh, I need to get it done now. Like, no, I knew that I'm going to reapply, and once I officially get accepted, I could then do those courses as well.
And again, little did we know that this whole thing would last so long,
Yeah.
because at that point in time, everybody thought it would just be for a few weeks or maximum, you know, and it would everything would go back to normal. But as I was mentioning, instead it actually got worse, you know, because what we got then is curfews, early curfews. Now you have to know that my business run mostly in the evenings. We are open throughout the day, but basically that time we used to open at 9 o'clock in the morning for breakfast already, and be open until 9 or 10 in the night, at least on weekends even longer. And well, as immediately as the island closed down, which meant no more tourists. Now mostly breakfast people that would come to our place would be tourists, and in March it was still tourist season, because tourist season in Jamaica is officially only going to the end of March, but it unofficially it's going until after Easter. So basically, suddenly no more tourists or were on the island, although quite a few got stranded actually, because after that period of time, I met quite a few people that said, oh, we got stranded. So I said, wow, it's quite, I mean, I'm talking about a few hundred people at least that got stranded on the island, like Melody. But so, the curfew took place then, no more breakfast guests. In the day it was calm, and then in the evening suddenly Jamaica put down like a 6 o'clock curfew, which from 6 to whenever, 9 or 10 at night or even later on the weekends, that would be our main business time. So basically what happened, our main business time was cut out. completely. And at first, curfew was really enforced in Jamaica. They would have police all over the place, patrolling, police cars standing
You
up.
had to be home by
You
6
had
o'clock
to be
on the
home
dot.
by 6. So that means we even had to start clean up by 5:30 in order to, or even earlier,
We had to, yeah.
because people had to go reach home as well. So I mean, basically, our business was depleted completely. You know, because the few little orders we got throughout the day, although people would adjust after a little while and they would learn, okay, if I want a pizza for tonight, I better order it in the afternoon. But it was catastrophic for us because basically the income was going down to a little above zero. And as you know, the bills stayed the same. The rent had to be paid. Electricity, I cannot shut off my fridges overnight or my freezer only because I don't make business. They continue running, right? I mean, we would have a little less electricity because the pizza oven wouldn't run in the evening anymore, or some other things wouldn't be working in the evenings anymore, but that was comparatively small in the amount. But the general bills, telephone, internet, electricity, water would cut down a bit too, of course, but that was so small, the difference, that it really didn't really help at that point in time. So basically we lost over 75% of our sales, but the bills stayed the same. Plus, I mean, the staff that was working throughout the time needed to be paid, which we ended up then from April basically we had to let off the staff temporarily, give them unpaid holidays because we couldn't afford them anymore. So we ended up, Mayumi, Melody and me, running the entire restaurant, doing the cooking, doing the serving. I would do the shopping and the bookkeeping and help out with the service if anything. She was mostly the waitress. Mayumi would cook. I would have to watch a baby as well because while Mayumi was doing the kitchen work, of course, somebody had to watch the baby. So we were well busy. Although we did not have the amount of customers anymore, but we were there the whole day practically. We had to be there and catch every customer possible and give them as good as a service that we could possibly do in order to keep them on as well. So it was a very, very straining time, and after about 2 months, that was April, May, well, going into June, we were actually exhausted because it was every day. First of all, we decided
2 months?
It was more than 2 months actually, a little more than 2 months.
Almost 3.
It was almost, yeah, say almost 3 months. So what happened? We decided not to open early in the morning anymore because it didn't make sense anyhow. Nobody would come. We were just sitting there and practically wasting our time. So we decided we would open from 12 o'clock, but it meant for me basically or us to come down a little after 11, set up the place, get everything ready and so on. But at least we had 2 hours more in the morning where we could kind of relax a bit because we were working every day. No, we did close the Tuesdays then, right? We decided to close on Tuesday, so at least we would have 1 day off in the week. But you can imagine it was a real rough time. And then when Easter came, the government decided the island would be locked down, on lockdown completely throughout the entire Easter. It was like the Thursday evening by 6 o'clock everybody needed to be home, and they could only come out on the road on the Tuesday morning 6 o'clock. So it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Nobody was. It was Thursday evening, yeah. So 4 days straight, nobody was supposed to leave their houses at all. Only like if you get sick, you could go in the hospital. and some security workers and hospital staff and people like that, they were allowed, essential workers, they were allowed to continue their work, but they got a paper showing that they were essential workers. There were very few taxi drivers that they got permission to carry these people wherever they needed to go. So basically that Easter, for 4 days, Jamaica was dead. Nobody on the street. I mean, we live right by the main road here, as you might have seen, like when we have the noise of trucks and this and that sometime when we are sitting out there. Nothing. I mean, you would not even see a car for hours. That was absolutely crazy. And of course, Easter is a holiday. Easter is a holiday that brings my restaurant a lot of money, because of course people are going out Easter. They have holiday, they have time, they have an
Easter is celebrated.
It's a celebration here. Exactly. Jamaica. They make parties normally, big parties. Oh, don't even talk about parties. Parties were prohibited. All discotheques, all bars were basically closed anyhow. I mean, we as a restaurant were even allowed to stay open throughout the day. Bars were not allowed to be open anymore. Any other places that where people would just gather and be together were prohibited from opening. So, I mean, we as a restaurant, because we sold food, which food is essential, we got the blight at least within the non-curfew hours to be open. But we have a bar at the compound, and that bar was closed for months. They were not allowed to open at all. So all this COVID thing at that point in time had a huge impact on everybody, on the entire island. Everybody was suffering. I found myself incapable to pay the rent in the shop. I had to I tried to talk to my landlord here, and I said, guys, I'm very, very sorry, but I won't be able to pay the full rent. I'm going to scrape together as much as I can, but I won't be able, because I have no income, basically. I have no money. I do not know where to find it, so please give me a blight. And that is what has happened since then. Basically, I scraped together as much rent as possible for our house here, and paid. I had to find the money for electricity and water and so on, because I mean, we cannot live here without that. And we somehow reached to do it. My 2 sons did send me some money from their respective places, because they realized we didn't have anything here anymore, so they helped me out that way. And it was extremely rough to survive those times. Really, really rough. Now coming back to Richie, at first when he was out of the house, I was glad I didn't keep any contact with him. I didn't call him. I didn't even want to see him or know anything from him. And then after a few, it was like 2-3 months after he came out, then he called me one day, and I took the call, and he told me, look, Sabina, I'm sober. I stopped drinking. And I said, wow, okay. If that is true, good for you. Congratulations. And then he told me, yeah, and I found a room, and the room was in the middle of the town, and why don't you come visit me one day and we can talk a bit and this and that and the other. And well, to be honest, I was interested to see if he was really sober, so I went there one afternoon. And at that point in time, normally he would be drunk already. And when I saw him and we met there, and he showed me his room, and he said, huh, and he was sober. He was completely and totally sober, and I was like, wow, you know. But of course you don't trust that, because, well, being sober for how long? Well, at that point in time, he said he apparently sobered up pretty fast after I set him out. he decided enough is enough and he didn't want to drink anymore. And I was amazed to see, I mean, it takes some willpower, because if you drink for such a long time in that extent, and you must understand, he did not have any help here, no doctor, no Alcoholics Anonymous, nor psychological help, nothing. So he basically just stopped to drink, bruh. And what happened after that is like, my washing machine in the house here didn't function anymore, and I mentioned that to him one time. We started to talk again and would meet once in a while, and but nothing called relationship or anything. And I mentioned to him that my washing machine was functioning. He said, "Oh, I have a washing machine here, so bring down your laundry. I will take care of that. Don't worry." And so I started to bring our laundry, and he would wash it and fold it and dry it and fold it and give it back to me ready. And I was like, "Oh!" And all the time when I saw him, he was sober. He did not touch alcohol anymore, and the time progressed more and more and more over the year. And remember, it was February I set him out. We are talking now, that was in about summer, and of course with the laundry it helped me a lot. And then basically we are working alone and stuff, and then we started to get back in some staff, some chef, and so, because they were out of jobs as well. And we kind of, well, it was me. My daughters didn't even want it, but I was kind of concerned about the staff, because I said, "Boy, them no have nothing." Because I've met them once in a while, and I asked them, "Did you find another job? Can you support yourself? How is it working?" And all of them said, "No, we didn't find no job." Because of course at that point in time nobody was really hiring neither. And the business had not gotten really better, a bit better, and it had stabilized to a degree where at least I could see, okay, I get my bills paid, I get I can do the shopping, we can survive of it, but it was still very, very, very problematic. And for some reason I still decided, okay, I'm going to give two of the people them a chance to work again, because they had a child that needed to be taken care of. And you know, when children are involved, I'm trying to help. You know, I mean, I probably, if they didn't have a child, I wouldn't really have cared so much. So they would start to come in, not on a full basis, but just to help them out financially a bit, you know, as well. So, and it gives us a little break in between as well, so we could at least start to breathe again. And then Richie came in again, as he used to do the shopping for the shop and stuff like that. So he said if you could help out, and I gave him the opportunity to do some shopping for us again, which A, gave him something to do, B, helped us as well. So situation kind of, how to say, well, like, I can say throughout that year, going to the end of the year, Richie and me got closer again, because the love was always there. And when I saw that he was definitely, for months and upon months, we are talking now all in all to the end of 2020, by end of November, that was 9 months that he had been sober. And when we met one time, I think I picked up some laundry again, and he said if it would be okay if he could move in back in the house, he would pay me a little bit of rent. That would help me as well, because in the meantime his family did help him out to pay rent and other stuff. And he said he would give me the money that he would pay for the room there, he would give it to me, and that would help me out a bit and stuff like that. And he felt uncomfortable where he was there now, and he really would love to come back home, and he promised he wouldn't drink again and stuff like that. So like I said, the love was still there, and 9 months is quite a long time to be sober. So of course I had the hope and that it could continue and would continue, and that now everything could finally change and get to the better. So by December of that year, I agreed. I said, okay, you can move in January if you want. And that's it for today, because what is happening then will be next story time, I guess, right?
Yes.
Do you have anything else to say?
No. I don't have nothing to say.
I don't have nothing to That's a bad one.
But yeah, that was pretty much it for that time. So the continuation will be next week Thursday, so stay tuned for that, guys. And I just want to say thank you guys for checking out this video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you on my live video tomorrow. Bye.